He's Rick Neuheisel, Pac-12 Network football analyst, former UCLA head coach, Colorado head coach. But, he's also a part-time musician. He may be full-time musician more than anything else, part-time analyst here. But he's part of the Pac-12 football games, Idaho State, Utah, and then Arizona State, Weber State. Rick will be there with the rest of the crew. Pac-12 football pregame show starts at 3:30 Pacific on Thursday. He joins us now. Hi, Rick.
How are you, Dan?
Good, buddy. Good.
Have you stayed busy this summer?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I got some things going on. Busy. Just trying.
Oh, a man of your stature.
Yeah.
I'd imagine some things are going on.
Yeah, just trying to entertain a nation, Rick. That's all.
and you do it so well.
Oh, thank you.
We are lucky to be in your company.
Thank you. That's the only reason.
Who do you like in the college football first Final Four? Who are your teams?
I'm more interested in the fifth team, Rick.
Isn't that kind of the American way?
Well,
reality TV, we want to see who's out.
Yes. Yeah.
Not necessarily who's in.
But if you look at these conferences, if I said you win the SEC, you're going to be playing for the national title. If you win the Pac-12, are you playing for the national title? You're in the Final Four, I should say. If you win the ACC, if you win the Big Ten, which conference, if you win your conference, you get left out?
Well, to me, the one I worry for is the Pac-12 because we have so many good quarterbacks in the league. It's going to be hard to go unscathed through the thing. It just a gauntlet of a schedule with 9 conference games and a championship game, the only conference that has such. So, to me, I worry. But I think the injury to Braxton Miller might have been a blow to the Big Ten as much as it was to Ohio State, even maybe to Michigan State, because the schedule and the relative toughness of the schedule has diminished in the minds of people who aren't studying the Big Ten on a daily basis. So it'll be interesting because, as we know, at least one conference will be left out, and if you have 2 losses and let's say the SEC has 2 one-loss teams, you might be 2 conferences that are out.
Yeah, I'm just looking at how this is all going to play out. I don't think Notre Dame's a factor to take one of these spots away, but that'll be one of those bear watching if Notre Dame gets good again, to that level. Florida State, you would think, would do well. Alabama with the new quarterback, does that matter with Nick Saban? The Pac-12 may eat each other. That they're you got 3 or 4 teams that could be there. Is Oklahoma going to be great enough to run the table?
I think Baylor bears watching too.
Yeah,
because I don't think their non-conference schedule is a challenge at all. Their game in Norman, Oklahoma, I think is going to be a huge one in November. But it will be exciting, especially as we round the corner into November.
When you were a coach, how much did you watch of other teams when you would vote in the coaches poll?
I'm a football fan, so we had a night game. I'd watch football all day. But, obviously I didn't TiVo games to make sure that I got to see everybody to cast my ballot.
Yeah, but coaches shouldn't vote. I don't want my coach watching other football. I don't want him concerned about other games. People aren't on the schedule.
That. The only defense for coaches being involved in the voting is they have the most trained eye as to what's the best football team out there. But I think in reality that duty was passed off to others in the athletic department because it was low on the totem pole in terms of priorities.
He's Rick Neuheisel, Pac-12 Network analyst, joining us. Dan Patrick Show. His new song we'll drop that coming up here in a moment. We got Jim Mora on next hour. Can you live vicariously through a program, having recruited a lot of these kids, including that great quarterback, Brett Hundley, or is it painful to kind of see them almost succeed in spite of you?
Can I answer both?
Sure.
The truth of the matter is it's both. I have a son on the team, and so I'm very close to the program, not just because I recruited, as you mentioned, some of the guys on the team, including the quarterback, but, a lot of the kids come over to the house and so forth. So I'm elated that UCLA is having the success that they're having, and I've got my fingers crossed that they can have the kind of season I think they're poised to have. And I certainly offer a pat on the back to Jim Mora and his staff for the job that they've done. It's painful because I think we were on the cusp of having the same thing happen, but for some injuries that cost us our ability to be consistent in my fourth year there, the injury to Hunley that kept him from playing as a freshman. Those things, were out of my control. So that part of it is, but I think it can't go to bitterness. Bitterness only hurts me. So I'm happy that things are going well for the Bruins, and they got my fingers crossed that they have a great year. It'd be fun to see my son get a chance to play in a Rose Bowl. I was lucky enough to do that years and years ago, so it'd be fun to see him get that same opportunity.
I brought this up about these quarterbacks. I think the transition is easier from high school to college for these quarterbacks instead of college to the pros, because in the pros you have to process information quickly, whereas in college I can just signal in, I can do hands or whatever, just say here's the play, the entire team can look around at me, whereas you get to the NFL, you can't do it that way. You have to process it in the moment.
You're dead right there. But the other reason is most of the offenses now in high school are spread offenses. And they're what we call progression offenses, meaning that quarterbacks are reading from receiver to receiver to receiver, 1 to 2 to 3, rather than really caring much what goes on the defensive side of the ball after they've made sure they're protected. Coverages don't matter much to high school quarterbacks in spread offenses, and really don't matter much to what's going on in the college level either that are involved in spread offenses. So when you go to the next level and you have to really study all the tells that exist on a defense as to whether or not they're going to be in single high or double high or two-man or all the different coverage variations that exist in the NFL, especially on third down, there's a learning curve. There's no question, and I think you can see that happening to especially the athletic kids that have come from spread offenses. So guys like Mariota and Hunley are going to have to learn that piece of it, whereas a guy like Kevin Hogan, who comes from the Stanford offense, that kind of is already adept at that kind of stuff. So I think that's why you're seeing Andrew Luck have the great beginning to a career that he's enjoyed.
Yeah, and I find that with these offensive coordinators, one who told me it's harder because they have these habits where they're not used to going to the line of scrimmage and then looking and then processing and then changing a play. That in real time, that's hard for these college kids making the transition to the NFL.
Well, and in college, I just went through all these training camps. You're hearing coaches faster, faster, faster. They don't want you to look around and gain all the information. They want you to get the ball snapped, and because pace, as Chip Kelly has even proved in the NFL, is their weapon. Well, they want to go fast.
It's the number of plays you squeeze off. That's what they want to do, and that's what that Chip is doing with Philadelphia. It's not – people said, well, you can't win with, Foles there. He's not his kind of quarterback. And I went, no, you're missing the point. He wants to just keep cranking out plays, and then he believes with his weapons that he's going to be able to have the advantage.